My friend, his wife, is a school teacher. And she works at a school that had to install a litter box in the girls' room because there is a girl who's a furry who identifies as an animal. And her mother badgered the school until they agreed to put a litter box in one of the stalls. You're so crazy with what you think an animal is that not only have you said this, but you've conned the school into putting this litter box in a girl's room.
Yeah.
Which is bananas.
I didn't really think much of it, I guess. And then we have Joe Rogan's show talking about it. Says a friend called him and told him this. Many Republicans saying it. And NBC News just said, nah, it's fake. It's not real. Why? School said so.
From misinformation merchants like Joe Rogan to reported paid Russian assets like Tim Pool, they all share one thing in common, being duped into believing some of the most outlandish propaganda imaginable. Which brings us to Texas State Representative James Tallarico.
Can you name a school where it has been confirmed that students are using litter boxes?
Well, what we do with this bill is we prevent that from happening, but what we don't take out.
Can you name a school where it has been confirmed that students are using litter boxes? This was at the top of your press release. This was mentioned when you introduced this bill, created quite a stir. So I'm asking, can you name a school where it's been confirmed that there are litter boxes being provided to students?
For this purpose, no, I cannot.
This 30-second exchange summarizes everything you need to know about today's Republican Party. Completely detached from reality, no evidence, no basis in fact, and fundamentally unserious. Instead of working to improve the lives of everyday American people, they're concerned with an imaginary issue used specifically to sow distrust and fear.
Your tweet about this bill was flagged by the app itself under their community notes, and their fact check said sensationalist claims about furries literally behaving as animals and receiving accommodations such as litter boxes have been repeatedly debunked as hoaxes. Is that correct?
It was flagged on, community notes?
Okay.
Notice how Representative Stan Gerdes didn't answer Tallarico's question.
I find it concerning that these types of debunked conspiracy theories are being used by politicians at the highest levels of our government, including in this legislature, who know that they're incorrect. Are you aware that Governor Abbott said, quote, kids go to school dressed up as cats with litter boxes in their classrooms?
Sure.
Are you also aware that when the governor was asked by the Dallas Morning News to name a single school where this happened, he couldn't? And PolitiFact called this a pants on fire false claim started by online rumors?
Okay.
Do you think it's a good use of our time to write laws based on debunked internet conspiracy theories?
Well, this isn't, this piece of legislation before us covers that among other things that are true.
It's so frustrating and infuriating to have to deal with an opposition party that plays into so many conspiracy theories that have no truth, right? There's no validity in them. You got bigotry already present in the country and they thrive off of that. And then there's this fear of other people to stay in power. So when you put all of that together, it's really annoying, but also scary because they have control, right? They have total control right now. And that just could lead to so much more hurt and harm to so many Americans who do not deserve it. What are we doing here?
My concern is that instead of holding a hearing about student mental health, instead of holding a hearing about school closures across Texas, we are spending precious legislative time toward the end of this legislative session on a bill called the Furries Act. And honestly, Representative Gerdes, this whole thing is just weird and honestly a little creepy. And I think that's the point, because this is all, in my opinion, a manufactured, debunked smear campaign against our Texas public schools. Governor Abbott has used this litter box rumor to paint our schools in the worst possible light. He even used the litter box conspiracy theory to push his private school voucher bill. These culture war attacks are nothing more than an effort to discredit our public schools to justify defunding those public schools. Texas librarians are not grooming kids, Texas teachers are not indoctrinating kids, and Texas schools are not providing litter boxes. And I think the most disappointing part about all this is that I think you know that.
Just like a dog will completely forget what it was doing when you yell squirrel, the new distraction in the Texas legislature is the Furries Act, which would ban students from behaving like animals, meowing, barking, hissing, etc. Meanwhile, the earth is burning. Note the wildfire near Fredericksburg. Drying up. Note the low lake levels and dried up springs and swimming holes. Blowing away, note the winds strong enough to tempt over 18-wheelers, and becoming more polluted. Note the relaxing of already loose regulations around the venting of greenhouse gases. It's time our legislators recognize the great work our public school teachers are doing and start working on real crises before it's too late.
I couldn't agree more with Tallarico and Representative Vicki Goodwin when it comes to connecting the Republican Party's attack on our public education infrastructure to bills in cultural war issues just like this one. Are we serious? The Furries Act? Banning students from acting like animals? When we've got so many other issues going on, and then it's used, as Tallarico talked about, used to defund public education and get these private school vouchers. Meanwhile, we have so many more tangible issues that we should be addressing, like environmental deregulation, as Representative Goodwin talked about, and climate change. And it's so dangerous, right? It's a disaster, to be honest, because you're going to continue to eradicate the quality of education, just quality of life for so many people. And it's only going to get worse if they get their way. And then you have environmental issues that affects our ability to breathe, right? And live, and not just survive, but to thrive. And they're worried about students acting like animals in schools. I mean, what on earth is the vision here? It's not a progressive one. I mean, we know that. It's not one that's going to help the country whatsoever.
The Department of Justice is also coordinating with state and local law enforcement to fight child abuse in our school systems. It is child abuse to change a child's gender, particularly if you do not inform the parents. In other words, if a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old goes to school, or a 7-year-old goes to school, and the teacher tries to turn the boy into a girl or the girl into a boy, that is child abuse. And this administration is treating that as child abuse. And it is a gross violation of parental rights. President Trump is at the forefront of protecting women and protecting girls. And nowhere is that clearer than when we are talking about fighting radical gender ideology. This administration is also fighting to get critical race theory out of our school districts. Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civic values for schools that want federal taxpayer funding. So as we close the Department of Education and we provide funding to states, we are going to make sure that these funds are not being used to promote communist ideology. For any nation to be successful, it cannot teach its children to hate themselves and to hate their country. So these are a few of the areas in which President Trump has fought the cancerous communist woke culture that was destroying this country, where we were led to believe that men were women, that women were men, that racial discrimination was good, that merit was bad, and that safety and physical security mattered less than the feelings of liberal ideologues.
The vision Stephen Miller and the Trump administration see for the future of our education system and our future generations of children has nothing to do with adequately preparing them for life's current challenges, in addition to the ones we don't even know about, right? But rather indoctrinating them to think in a certain narrow-minded way that closes them off from any type of critical thinking and true independent thought. That's not what we want, okay? We don't want a narrow-minded generation that is only going to carry out the administration's agenda, because that's what's going on here. They want to continue white supremacy, right? White nationalism, and promote misogyny and all the phobias, right? That's what they want to do here. We do not. That's what they want to do. But we, the people who actually believe in our kids leading our nation in a better way, that's not what we want, okay? We want critical thinking. We want them to push back and ask the authorities different thoughts that really provokes people to stretch their minds, not just adopt an agenda and then carry it out that is going to harm so many people, unless you're, a white male or somebody who is going to carry out the agenda, and you're happy to do that, even if you're not a white heterosexual male. Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.